right, you guys. So we are starting a new sermon series tonight. Can you guess what we're talking about based on what you just saw? Who said it? Ruby. Amazing. The queen. We're talking about family tonight, and family is something that we all have in common, but family looks different for all of us. So I want us to think for a little bit. I want to see where we're at. Raise your hand if you are an only child. You have no siblings. 1, 2, 3. Okay, a few of you. So FYI, now all of the friends around you, they are now your siblings. Okay, you can consider them all your siblings now. Raise your hand if you are the oldest child. Okay. Aren't you a twin? Aren't you a twin? But she's still older than you? You're funny. Okay, how many olders over here? Okay, so do you guys feel like you're like the extra parent? Like with all of your younger siblings? Do you feel like you're like the boss? Like you get tagged in like, hey, take your siblings. Hey, take your siblings. Okay, fun. Who here is a middle child? You've got olders and youngers. Yeah? Yeah? Yeah. Okay, fun. You're seen. I know you. Here's attention just for you. Okay? Did that heal something inside of you? And who's the baby? Raise your hand if you're the baby. Yeah? Okay, so let me just tell you the responses. Only the babies smiled when they raised their hands. Everybody else was just like, yeah, whatever, I'm the oldest. Yeah, whatever, I'm the only child. The babies are all like, that's me. And I understand because I'm a baby too. And it is every bit as good as people think it is. Like, yeah, it is actually great to be the youngest in the family. Thank you so much. Okay. So super fun. Listen. Now, just because we all have family does not mean family all looks the same. Like we just said, everybody has a different birth order in our family. Our families have all different shapes and sizes. For some of you, family means a parent, maybe just one, and a few siblings, a handful of olders or youngers all in your house. Or it means that you have 2 parents and no siblings. Or maybe you have a mother, a stepmother, a father, a stepfather, 4 half-brothers and sisters. It might mean 3 dogs, your dad, his girlfriend who lives with you. Or maybe your family is one who adopted you. Or maybe you have a foster family. Or maybe they are friends who maybe feel a little bit more like family to you. Family comes in all shapes and sizes. We all have a different experience with family. Some of us might love being with these people that we share a house with, and for others, it might be a little complicated. I know for me, who's in 8th grade in here? Raise your hand if any 8th graders. Okay, super fun. So when I was in 8th grade, we moved here to Florida, my family and I, from Alabama, where we had lived for 11 years. And my family has taken all different shapes and sizes over the years. But at its core, my intimate, like kind of family of origin, my immediate family is me, my mom, my dad, and my older brother. That was our family, right? That's who we shared a house with. And so when I was in 8th grade, we moved down here from Alabama to Florida. And that was already a big change for our family. But not long after that, my parents sat us down and told us that they were going to get separated. And then not long after that, they got divorced. And so that kind of changed how my family looked. And then my dad got remarried not long after that, and it brought all these new people into our family that we hadn't had before, and that was a big adjustment. And during that time, that went on for a few years, right? Like 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade. Any 9th and 10th graders in here? I was your age when that happened. So it kind of went on for a little bit like that. And if I'm honest, I love my family, and I've always loved my family. This doesn't mean that I didn't love them. But if I was honest, during that time when family was really messy and complicated, it just felt a lot easier sometimes to be with people who I didn't share a house with. It felt easier to be with my friends. It felt easier to be with people at school. And it felt easier to treat those people the way that I knew I should be treating my family, but it felt a lot easier to have a lot more kindness and love and things like that for people that were outside of my household, because family can get messy. And here at Youth Group, I know you guys talk a lot about all different kinds of ways that we can follow Jesus, right? We come together, we read Bible stories, we go in small groups and talk about it, we go on mission trips, we go to summer camp, we go to Big Stuff Camp. Anybody this year? Anybody? No Big Stuffers this year? Okay. Oh, there they are. They're just so quiet. We talk about all different ways that we can follow Jesus. We talk about how going on mission trips and serving others is a part of following Jesus. We talk about how showing respect to our teachers at school, where are my girls at that we were talking about that earlier? They're not even in the room. Got to find them. Well, yes, different ones, but yes, you guys too. We talk about how that is a part of following Jesus. And we talk about how loving others is pretty much the biggest, most important part of following Jesus, is showing love to other people. But if we're honest, I think kind of like how for me it was easier to be a little bit nicer to people who were outside of my household when my family felt complicated. Sometimes it can be a lot easier to show that love and kindness to people we're not living with. Even though we might know that love is the central part of our faith, even though we know that love is the way that we are maybe supposed to be, it can be easier to show that to other people than it can be to our own families. But, my friends, what if what happens at home is just as important, if not more important, than what happens just at church, or what happens on a mission trip, or what happens at Big Stuff Camp? What if loving the people that you share a house with is just as important as all of that other stuff when it comes to who you want to be, the character you want to have, and living out your faith? If you ask me, it absolutely does. But it leads us to a question. Where do we start? Where do we start? When we want to love others, when we want to love our families, when we want to treat them right, where do we start? When they are usually the people that know how to push our buttons more than anybody else, when they're the people we spend the most time with, when it can get messy and complicated, where do we start when it comes to loving our families? Well, after Jesus' death and resurrection, there was this guy named Paul. Everyone say Paul. Everyone else say Paul. Okay, good. That was probably all of you by that time. He wrote a bunch of letters to different churches that he was helping to get started because Jesus had come and really changed everything, and Paul was telling people about Jesus. And so Paul would go and he would get these churches started, and then when he left, he'd write them letters to give them tips or encourage them or help them through tough times, kind of like how you guys come together and go to youth group to figure out how to live your faith and be there for each other through tough times. It's kind of what Paul was doing with these guys. And in one of his letters to a church in a place called Corinth, Paul wrote all about love. He wrote about what love means and what love is like and how love is more important than even if you're the most skilled person or you're the most giving person or you're the most, spiritual seeming person. How love matters more than all of that stuff. And the good news is he doesn't just stop there. He actually goes on to give us different aspects of what love can look like. Different concrete things that we can point to say, here is how to love. So we're going to take a look at this. This is from 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 7. In it, Paul says, love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It means it's not going around bragging. It's not shoving things in other people's faces. It's kind, right? It does not dishonor others, so it's not disrespectful. It's not self-seeking. That means love isn't selfish. Love isn't only thinking about what I want. It doesn't mean you don't take care of yourself, because you do. But it means that you're not only looking out for you. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. Friends, love is something that is more than just a feeling. There's going to be times where we don't feel very loving. We might not feel like showing people love. But the good news about love is that it goes beyond a feeling. Love is a choice, and love comes with action. And when we don't know where to start when it comes to loving anybody, but especially with our families, because that can get hard sometimes, we can start with a list like this. We can take a look at what it means to be patient and kind and gentle and forgiving and honest with each other. Friends, whenever we treat each other in similar ways to what Paul describes here, when we're patient with our siblings, when they are just bothering the heck out of us when we're trying to do our own thing, when we're kind to that new family member that's just gotten introduced into the mix and we're still not sure about them, and that's okay, you don't have to be, but when you're kind anyways, when we don't brag about our stuff, but we choose to share, when we pause before we snap back and say that little comment to the adult that just told us to do something, when we show respect, tell the truth, say sorry, and protect each other, we are showing love. And we are following Jesus and living out our faith right in our own households. Friends, I want you to think about your daily interactions with your family most of the time. Everybody has hard days, right? I still get mad at my older brother sometimes, and we're real grown. But even now, we still get mad at each other sometimes. But most of the time, I want you to think about the way that you treat your family. And then I want you to think about the words that we just heard. Patience, kindness, forgiveness, all that stuff. And I want you to think, which of those words do you feel like describe how you treat your family? And which of those words do you feel like maybe could use some work? It's not a bad thing, you guys. It's no judgment. We can all use work in different areas. But just what does that look like for you? And what would it be like if you actually made the effort to take one or two of those words that Paul describes here and said, I'm just going to try to live this out with my family a little bit more? Friends, my family has continued to get messy and complicated. There are some family members we don't talk to anymore. There are some family members who have passed away. My family looks a whole lot different now than it did when I moved here in 8th grade. But even with all of my family's messiness, I still want to show them love. I want to be patient with them. I want to be kind to them. I want to tell the truth to them. I want to protect them. Even in our messiness, I still want to show them love. And I bet at your core, you do too. And now for some of you, this might look a little bit different because maybe for some of you, your family has changed because of circumstances beyond your control. Maybe you've been hurt by family members, or maybe, like I said, maybe you don't talk to certain members of your family anymore. And if that's true, if you're having those hard family things to navigate, I want you to know I'm so sorry, and that there are so many ways to love your family, even if that means loving them from a distance. That it's okay to make those choices, to have healthy boundaries that you talk to with the safe adults in your life. And sometimes living this out might mean doing so when you're not in a direct relationship with them. But my question to all of us is this: those people, whoever they are, that you surround yourself with the most, what would it look like to love them well, according to the words that we just heard? And just think this week about doing one thing. We're about to head off into small groups, and we're going to talk through what it looks like to pick just one of these words and really focus on using that to help you love your family just a little bit better. In all the mess, however it looks, I think we're all going to be better for it.